Hi, this is Amanda, Chris's nutrition coach. I help him keep his belly from actually looking like a peach. But first, check this out.
And so I started $5 dinners after breaking down the prices of the food I was buying and putting it all together. And a couple nights in a row, it ended up being less than $5. At that time, for my family of 4, but I could still pull it off most nights. You know what? I remember it so clearly. It was like the ticker on the news or runs across the screen. It was just like this little ticker across my brain, like $5 dinners, $5 dinners.
Today's guest on the show is the founder of $5dinners.com, Erin Chase. Now look, I've looked over thousands of budgets over the years, and I can tell you the number one place that we overspend is at the grocery store and going out to eat. It's food in general. We have such a habit, myself included, of overspending. And Erin is an expert to teach us how we can stop overspending and what we can be doing to literally eat for $5 a meal. Not $5 a person, $5 a meal. So Erin's going to come on the show today. She's going to talk about her story, how she developed $5 dinners, how she became a household name. She's been featured on places like The View, Rachel Ray, The Today Show, Fox and Friends, and how she's grown her business to help thousands and thousands of people all over the world save money on their monthly grocery bills. Without further ado, let me bring on Erin Chase. Erin Chase, thank you so much for coming on the Money Peach podcast. Before we get started, we're going to be talking about saving money at the grocery store. You're the absolute expert on it. Before we get there, I want to just kind of do a little icebreaker here. Do you remember the last time that we hung out?
I do. I'm going to go ahead and let you tell that story, maybe.
All right. I believe we were in Dallas. And
yes.
It was after a conference. You were the keynote speaker. We listened to you speak. It was amazing. And then afterwards we said, let's go out and have fun. And somehow the Uber driver dropped us off somewhere where there was this mechanical bull. And Erin Chase does not back down from a challenge. And you got on the mechanical bull and the rest is history.
Actually, I was on that mechanical bull twice at that conference because our friend Darren from Australia was in town. And I'm like, I'm the good Texas girl. I got to show him how we ride bulls here. And since there weren't any real bulls, we had to ride the mechanical bull. And it was hysterical. He actually challenged me first. And I was like, well, I can't not accept this challenge. And then when we went out to the same place again later, there we were again. Like, yeah, I gotta teach everybody how to ride the bull.
So I watched you ride the bull first. And I remember thinking to myself, why is she so good at this? And then I'm thinking, well, she's good at everything. So I didn't want to let you be better than me at this bull riding. So I remember I was counting how long you lasted and you totally crushed me. And so then afterwards I had to tell myself in my head that the guy that was controlling it must have been rougher on me because I was a guy. That's what made me feel better. That's how I went to bed at night. So, but the mechanical bull.
That's so funny. No, I'll tell you the secret. The secret is you put your feet up high and you like squeeze with your feet. Anyways, whatever. We have horses in our family, so I ride horses too. But yeah, it's like a thing. I don't know. It's just how you do it. Now you know for next time. Now you can beat me next time.
You know, and I'm ashamed because I live in Arizona. And Arizona is supposed to be like the wild, wild west. You know, people like say there's cowboys here. And I am so far from that a mechanical bull actually beat me up a little bit. So I had some shoulder pain for about a week. But all right, so I want to jump in. But I remember thinking today, I'm like, when was the last time I was with Erin? I'm like, oh, yes, the mechanical bull. All right. So Erin Chase, you are the founder of $5 Dinners. You're an expert in helping millions of people save money on where I think people overspend the most is on food in general. And so I've wanted to have you come on for a while because I know so many of our listeners, they're either out there trying to save as much money as they can, pay off debt, or make money. And what you can share with us today is going to allow us to do all three. Before we jump all the way in, kind of give me a little background of what is $5 dinners. I mean, the name pretty much defines it, but give me a little bit more of what's your elevator spiel if somebody says, Erin, what is $5 dinners?
So the name defines it to a point, but it's really crazier than it sounds. So a lot of people think it's $5 per person for the meal. So my family of 6, I have 4 boys and my husband and I, that would be $30 for a meal at home. Well, no. I'm talking about like $5 total for the whole meal. It's a total game. So what ended up happening back in 2008 when the gas prices shot up is we needed to spend less money somewhere in our budget. My husband was a teacher. He had a long commute. Gas was crazy. It was like it doubled at one point for us in our budget. And so I was not working at the time. And I thought, well, if we're going to have to be spending more money on gas, we're going to have to cut somewhere else. So I took it upon myself to cut our grocery bill in half. And I just was so excited about it. I couldn't keep quiet about it. I was sharing about it on our little family blog that we don't have really anymore. And my sister was just like, I really don't care what you're buying at the grocery store or what you're feeding the boys. Like, I just want to see pictures at the pool. This was the summer, right? You guys at the pool or swimming lessons or whatever you're up to. And so I started $5 dinners after just having this, like, I was kind of breaking down the prices of the food I was buying and putting it all together. And a couple nights in a row, it ended up being less than $5 at that time for my family of 4, but I could still pull it off most nights. You know what? I remember it like so clearly. It was like the ticker, like on the news or like ESPN or something, like little ticker that runs across the screen. It was just like this little ticker across my brain, like $5 dinners, $5 dinners. And I like literally stopped doing the dishes when I had this thought, and I ran to the computer and I start like Googling around because I had a little family blog. I knew enough about the internet and blogging to know that like this could be a thing. So I just started like, this is what we're having. This is how much it costs. This is what I'm buying at the grocery store. This is our meal plan for the week. Just started like talking about all the different things that I was doing and implementing. And then I think sharing the success, plus that was like when the recession was first starting. It hadn't like been a buzzword in the media yet, but it had already started with the gas price increase. And so it just took on a life of its own. And really, I've just been trying to keep up with it ever since.
Well, if you guys head on over to $5dinners.com, that's the number $5dinners.com, you'll see exactly what she's talking about. It's pretty amazing to see how you can go through this process and really change the trajectory of your family's budget every month, every year. But before we go too far in, Erin, one of the things I want you to share with us, if you don't mind, is kind of give me a little background of where were you guys at financially when that 2008 happened, and it was kind of up to you that, okay, I'm going to make some kind of impact on the family. Kind of walk me through that.
So yeah, my husband is a teacher, not a public school teacher. He was teaching in a corporate situation and actually earning less than an entry-level public school teacher. So we were already on a really tight budget. We had recently moved from an apartment to a home, and we always have been very smart with our money. Still, it was tight. I don't want to call it paycheck to paycheck because we were saving a little bit, but not as much as we could have or should have. And it was really that at the time we were both on pay-as-you-go cell phone plans. This was before we switched to kind of the unlimited plan. Pay-as-you-go cell phone. We've never had cable ever since we've been married. Our mortgage was really low. We had locked in, I think it was like 3.5, maybe. It was whatever the lowest it could have been at that time. We were locked in at that. So we were in a really great, housing situation, and we lived in the Midwest. So fairly inexpensive place to live. If you look at the cost of living calculators. And so we were really kind of as bare bones, if you will, or bare minimum on our monthly spending. I would take my little 2 boys to the library for play dates for free. I mean, we just didn't spend a lot of money in general. But with the gas price hike, that was kind of our wake up call of like, okay, this is a couple $100 more a month. He had a long commute at that time. And we even thought about moving closer to his work, that the whole like redoing the closing costs and everything would be cheaper than the gas. But in reality, it wouldn't have been. But we talked about it. I'm always looking to put ourselves in that best financial position. And ultimately ended up just deciding, okay, no, I'm just going to spend less on groceries. That's the one, you mentioned this at the top, like that's the one thing we have the most control over, but the one we overspend on so much. And we as everybody. And I fall into those traps. There's certain weeks where I'm like, oh, I did not do well this week, right? Still, but it's, it's a journey. We're always trying to do better, but that's the one we have the most control over. So when we kind of hit the fire there, it was like, okay, I got to go all in on this. And I was able to, we were spending at the time about $500 a month for the 4 of us, and we got that down to $250 with a combination of meal planning, studying the sale ads, some couponing. I would never call myself an extreme couponer. I've never gone to those lengths, but I use them all the time, still every week, just strategically. And I don't use them for all the things, but for as many things as I'm going to buy anyways. So it was kind of a combination of all that together that kind of made the perfect storm of being able to cut our grocery bill in half. But I would spend a little bit of time every single week just, studying the sales, making our meal plan, writing out a really great shopping list, and then I would just stick to it. And I have always been a cash or debit card shopper, depending on the week. But at that time, I was real into cash because that is really ultimately what holds you accountable to what you're putting in your cart, what you're putting in the checkout line, what goes onto the belt, right? So I did that for a long, long, long time. And that really helped me stay super mindful about what we were buying, how much we were spending each week, and able to keeping that at a really low amount for us every month. And ultimately ended up helping us kind of survive that gas hike without having to go, into the red each month.
So before that gas hike, Erin, it sounds like you were doing everything right. It doesn't sound like you were carrying a ton of debt or maybe just a mortgage. I didn't hear anything about like poor financial habits and carrying all this credit card debt or anything. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. We've always had a mortgage. For a short time, we had a little bit of a car payment, but we've always been sort of on the debt-free side of personal finance, if that's a thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's becoming cool. That's what we're trying to make it here. Is we're trying to make
it's
becoming
totally
debt-free cool. It's very cool.
It's super cool.
So before I ask the next question, I got to protect myself here. When did $5 dinners start?
August 22nd, 2008.
Okay, so I'm going to say, hey, I did not know about $5 dinners because when Andrea and I were getting out of debt in 2011, we were doing our own version. And I wish there was something like $5 dinners because we were making it up as we went. And I remember we were on the other side of personal finance. We were out of control spenders. We had huge amounts of debt. We had a negative net worth. We had no savings. We were a mess. And I remember we looked at our budget and we were spending right around $1,100, $1,200 a month on groceries for two of us. And we had like a 10-month-old. So, I mean, there's no excuse for it. So she started getting pretty extreme about cutting back. But we didn't do anything cool like I see on your site. We just basically I wouldn't say starved ourselves, but it was like bread, water, rice cakes, that kind of stuff. And so I wish going back that I could have found something that my wife could have looked at and said, I can do this, right? Because I was doing an old school Excel spreadsheet and we were taking the sales and putting them in there and then highlighting. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. We ended up saving money, but we couldn't stick with it. And I think the reason why I bring that up is that is so common. You can only imagine, I've probably looked at it has to be over 1,000 budgets now that people have sent me over the last couple of years through our program. And the number one thing I always see right away that you could easily fix and no one wants to fix because they don't think they can is going out to eat and the grocery store. And I just call it food in general. Now, I mean, I know you're in that niche, but what are some of the facts out there that you've seen or some of the surprising stats out there that you've seen about, what are people really spending on groceries every month? And what are people spending going to Starbucks or going out to eat? I mean, when you say the number, I think it kind of freaks them out. And then when you put it on paper and they see, oh yeah, this is real. So have you seen that or do you have any you've been doing this a while. I'm sure you have something on that.
So yes, people always underestimate how much they're spending on food. And like you said, we're going to lump groceries plus dining out together. I'm going to say they underestimate that in their heads by 30 to 40%. And that's not like a stat or research I've done any specific data studies on, but in our programs too, we have people look specifically at food. Like this is how much we're spending and this is what our goal is now, right? It's so eye-opening to write it all down and actually not go to your you need a budget category. No, you go through your bank statement, through your credit card statement, through your debit statement, through your ATM pulls. You go through every single one of those for the last 3 months. You will fall out of your chair when you look at it because we're not intentional about it. Then I think the reason that and you going back to, doing all your spreadsheets and stuff that's being intentional. And that's when you see a difference, right? When you're being intentional about it. And I think that the reason that we fall out of the intention with our food spending is a couple reasons. One, we have to eat every single day. Eating on a budget and feeding your family when you have little kiddos and they want to eat every other hour or sometimes every hour when they're in a growth spurt, that's just exhausting. So what happens is we just are we'll just go through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru again, or, we'll just stop to get a coffee because I was up last night with a kid in the middle of the night who had an accident or whatever. There's always a thing, right? There's always something that is causing us to be stretched and overwhelmed and maxed out and whatever it is. And so when it comes time to feed ourselves, we need the fastest, easiest, most convenient option, which for most people is fast food, takeout, drive-through, whatever it may be. And that adds up so fast. And so then when we go to think and that's why we underestimate how much we're spending is because we just don't even remember that we went through Chick-fil-A 3 times this week. And I'm specifically speaking about my sister here. I'm not going to throw her under the bus, except I am. But she's got three toddlers and a husband who works a lot. And she's currently at home, although she'll go back to work here soon. But I won't even say how many times a week she goes through Chick-fil-A. It's not always for a full meal, but still, even if it's just for a milkshake or cookies or whatever, like it adds up so fast. I'm not using myself as an example because I'm pretty great at not going through the drive-thru. But I think she's like a lot of us in that we have to do something to get ahead so that we stay out of the drive-thru, so that we stay out of whatever it is that is causing our food spending to go so high and so high.
Erin, then what would you say to people that say, Erin, this makes sense, but I don't have time. I just don't have the time to, plan out an entire meal every single day or 2 meals a day or whatever it might be. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest hangups people have, that it's just you're paying a premium for that time saver by going through the drive-thru. I think you're not really paying for quality of food. We know that. Chick-fil-A is not bad, but we're not paying for quality. We're paying for the convenience of not having to do anything except for just sit in your car. So how do you overcome that? If someone was, somebody's asking, I got 4 kids, I'm running around to soccer practice and baseball practice and, this and that. How could I plan for that?
So you need to identify like the specific pain points in your week, right? And I'll use myself as an example. So Mondays for us is really tricky. We have a 5:00 occupational therapy appointment in the medical center here in town, which is not close to our house. So we're in the car and at this appointment for 2 hours where I would be in or around the kitchen preparing dinner of some kind. And so what I have to do on those days in order to stay out of the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, and to complicate things even worse, we have a second appointment right as the other one's ending. And so there's my husband and I are going in 2 different directions with different sets of kids. So it ends up being we kind of have to eat out of the slow cooker kind of a night. So he'll eat with one kid and I'll eat with the other 3 kids a little bit later after we get home. Right. And so I know that that's a pain point in our week. And there have been phases where it's like, oh, well, it's just going to be easier to do Chick-fil-A tonight. Well, seriously, then I go and I'm like standing there giving her the card to like pay the $42 because that's how much it costs for all of us to eat Chick-fil-A. I could have made a $5 meal at home. And so I think we convince ourselves we don't have time. The convenience is there. But I don't know about the Chick-fil-A's around you, but like around here, you're in line for like a good 10, 15 minutes. I could prepare and get started a slow cooker meal in way less than 10 minutes. Way less. And so it's about thinking ahead and preparing ahead. It's all about the ahead. And it's not that we don't have time. We think we don't have time. That's the story that we tell ourselves. It's just that we're not ahead. And I'm not using the word plan. I try to avoid the word plan. But we need to think about our schedule, our weeks, the triggers, the days we end up like Thursdays is a day a lot of people end up going out because they're over it for the week. Like Thursday is like, okay, we did good Monday, we did good Tuesday. Wednesday was kind of leftovers, meh meal. And then Thursday, I'm over it, right? I'm over this week. I'm ready for the weekend. And so Thursdays ends up being kind of like a trigger night for a lot of people. And so if you know that, you can I'm using the word plan, you can be ahead. I'm trying not to use plan. You can be ahead and like, okay, Thursdays is going to be another slow cooker meal for us. Like I'm just starting it on Thursday morning, every single Thursday. Or what? Does that make sense? So like you kind of have to look at yourself. You kind of have to get a little introspective and like figure out where the pain points are for you in your week as it relates to food. Maybe it's a weekend lunch. So a weekend Sunday for us after church is always a big temptation to go out for lunch. And so I've actually started doing like 4-hour slow cooker meals that I turn on like in the morning. And then by the time we get back from church, it's like 1 o'clock or so. And then lunch is ready. So you kind of have to like look and see like where am I having trouble and what can I do to get ahead. And I keep using slow cooker because that's such a simple solution. But the Instant Pot is also a great one that you can be using for those kind of, you need to start a meal now and it needs to be ready in an hour or 2 from now. So there's, I like to use those sort of countertop appliances to have dinner waiting for us. I think they're a really great solution. But really bottom line, what it comes down to is figuring out, okay, these are my trouble spots. And what can I do to get around them? Is Thursday night going to now be breakfast for dinner night? Because breakfast for dinner is super easy. Like have cereal. It doesn't matter. If you're not spending $42 at Chick-fil-A and you're having cereal, that's great. Good for you, especially if you're in debt, especially if you're trying to or if you're early on, like if you're doing emergency content, like wherever you are in your journey, your personal finance journey, like having cereal at home versus going out and spending $40 in a drive-thru, that's a win. I call that a win. Even though it's cereal, it's still a win. Eggs and bacon, even better, but cereal is okay too.
What would life feel like if you no longer had to worry about money? What would life look like with $10,000 in the bank and zero debt? Do you realize you're really only a few decisions away from living life on your terms and not the bank's? How do I know this? Well, because we were once living paycheck to paycheck, completely broke and facing a mountain of debt. However, fast forward to today, we're debt-free, we're building wealth, and we live life on our terms, not the bank's. So now it's your turn. I would love for you to join me on my free workshop where I share the same step-by-step system we use to take back our life and our money once and for all. So head on over to moneypeach.com/workshop and grab your free spot in this online training that you're going to absolutely love. Once again, that's moneypeach.com/workshop. So I think what it comes down to, and as you were talking, you said, you don't like using that word, I don't have time, or I don't want a plan. I used to use that excuse too, is I don't have time to do this or do that. And then I remember listening to somebody saying that, we all have the same amount of time, right? We all get 24 hours in a day, right? We all get 60 minutes every single hour. So how are those other people out there able to do what I'm saying I don't have time for when Erin Chase has 4 kids and she's driving 2 hours to a therapy meeting on Monday? How is she able to do it? Because we have the same amount of time. And I think it comes down to being proactive. For those of you who listen to this show for a while, I beat this to death, but the number one habit of highly successful people is they are proactive. They happen to their money instead of waiting for their money to happen to them. They're intentional about building strong relationships. And in Erin's case, she's saying they're intentional about making sure you're not waiting to the last minute to go through the drive-thru, and you're just being a little more proactive throughout the week. So you have an affordable $5 dinner instead of a $40 unhealthy dinner at the drive-thru. And so you had said you cut your grocery bill in half, Erin? Mm-hmm. So $250 a month, right? Or is it a month, correct?
At that time, yeah. It's a little higher now.
Yeah, but at the time. So when you said your husband was making money, you weren't making money, so you thought, I'm going to save money. Right there, that just what you did right there, I just did, was $3,000 a year was what you had made up. So if someone's listening, they're like, I don't have time to go out and get a part-time job. I don't have time. You may not have time to go do a full-time job, but Erin just was talking about how she used a strategy to save money on groceries up to $3,000 a year. $3,000, that's a lot of money. That is a ton of money. Put it this way. If you're spending $40 or $50 a week at the drive-thru, and that's probably on the low end, I'd say, Erin, right? if you're only going maybe once, some people go 3 times a week.
Oh, that's once a week. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. My sister's, yeah, her drive-thru bill is pretty high, and she's got a younger, smaller family, but still.
Yeah, so there you go. So let's just say you're $100 a week on drive-thru, which I think is actually pretty realistic. I remember seeing somewhere, and it was shocking to me because we eat at home so much, that it was right around like $103 a week was what the average family spent, that continue to go through the drive-thru or through fast food. So that's $5,200 a year. So if you could stop spending $5,200 a year on fast food, you can, cut your grocery bill, use Erin as an example, from $500 to $250. Okay, we've just saved over $8,000 a year. And you didn't have to go and fill out a W-9 and become a new employee somewhere. You just had to pay a little bit close attention to what's going on at the grocery store. This is cool. I think people can definitely benefit from this. This is cool. I love talking about this. So you went from this blog where you're blogging to your family, right, about how to save money at the grocery store and stop eating out. So we don't have a ton of time to talk about this, but I'm on your website right now and it says featured on the Today Show and Fox and Friends and Rachel Ray and The View. So how did this, I'm going to call you, I know you don't like it, but I'm going to say it. How did the mommy blogger, how did Erin Chase go from, I just want to save $250 a month on groceries to this? What was it that, there's so many people out there that I think love the idea of, I could do something different than just driving in traffic to go to work every day. What did Erin do to get that ball rolling to where she's at today? Because it's incredible.
So I've never been a mommy blogger, but I have always been a food blogger. I'm just teasing. No, it's all good.
It's a joke. I know that we're all friends with that.
It has a bad rap. So yes, I think that the biggest driver of all of this is that I just love helping people. is what it comes down to. And that's what it really boils down to. I love food. I love good food. I love frugal food. I love feeding my family. I am like an efficiency guru. I always have been. I look back to, before all this started, before I even had a family, before I was married, and I have always been trying to find the fastest, most efficient way to do everything, all the things, not just related to food or cooking. And so it's ended up for me being sort of this perfect storm of, I love helping people. I love the concept of, this can be easier. Let me just give you some ideas. Sometimes I feel like I'm a walking Pinterest board, which can get me in trouble too, because I can overwhelm people with, oh, try this, try this, try this. Because everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's situations are different, or the things they're facing in life are different. And even the phases that I personally have gone through in the last almost 10 years since this whole thing started, things have kind of changed and evolved. But bottom line, I just am passionate about helping people and helping them eat well without being able to dig themselves out of debt, or being able to save up the emergency fund, or for the vacation, or for whatever, 3 years ago, my second son needed braces at age 7.5. Well, it was more like an expander turned into braces by the time he was 8. And I was like, what, how much is that? What? Oh yeah, no, he's 8. Like orthodontics, I was expecting that when they were teenagers, so we hadn't really started saving for that yet. And so I've always been very frugal with our grocery spending, but even through that little phase, I was like, oh, another $100 we got to shave off every month for the next couple months to help offset this cost, right? And so there's always going to be something in our lives that is going to kind of creep in and crop up like that. And so I'm really here, on this journey to help people. And I think, being consistent, sharing great ideas, packaging kind of these concepts up in a way that are simple and actionable and practical, and sort of universal, because everybody's situation is a little bit different, but I think has really helped kind of catapult the success of all the things that we've done.
I know we said $5 dinners many times, but I'm on your site now. And I mean, just like anything, you've grown, you've expanded. I see there's a grocery budget makeover, My Freeze Easy, $5 meal plan. One of the things that I have people tell me all the time, and they kind of point to me as like, Chris, you're being hypocritical, is so my wife and I are very, I would say, kind of over the top healthy eaters. And I don't mean to say it to brag. I say it's annoying because when people go out to dinner with us, they're like, oh my gosh, like he is so healthy. Like have some fun, eat some pizza in life. We like to eat paleo, or we've done ketogenic, or, we've counted our macros, and people say, well, if you do a meal plan, it's fine on an affordable price meal plan, but you can't do that when you're eating healthy. So what do you say to that?
That's how I got on Rachel Ray the first time. I emailed them and I was like, this is the story here. You ready for this?
Yes.
Whoopi Goldberg was a guest on Rachel Ray, and they did a segment together where they were complaining about it was too expensive to eat healthy. And they were relating it to, at that time, and this was back in 2007 or 2008, so it's a while back, there was, I can't remember which state it was, one of the states, maybe Arkansas, Alabama, somebody, the insurance companies were going to impose a fat tax. If you were fat, you had to pay more. Not kidding.
I do remember that. Do you
remember? It was a thing.
Yes.
It was a thing a while back. Like, if you smoke, you should pay more, whatever. And so they were basically complaining about how is that fair when it's so expensive to eat healthy, people can't afford it. And so I wrote into the show and it was like, this is how you afford it. And that's how I ended up appearing there. And so it is doable. It's being intentional. Your words of proactive and intention, like that is so essential for being able to do this, being able to eat well on a budget. I myself also eat paleo. And so I don't short order cook, but I'll just make a separate side dish from whatever the kids are having. Like kids are having rice, I'll have cauli rice. So it's not out of the world of craziness, but you have to get back to the basics. You have to be, I do cook a lot. I cook at home a lot. I prep ahead a lot. I do freezer meals a lot. And I do all of that in an effort to be that step ahead that I've been kind of alluding to here and there. I do it to stay out of the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. I do it to have something ready because there are days where I will get home and just be like, yep, don't want to cook today. Well, there's something there. And so you just pop it in the oven, pop it in the Instapot, or I start it in the slow cooker in the morning if I know it's going to be kind of one of those crazy days. And so it's all about equipping yourself for that success. And I think what happens, and you mentioned this with you guys, is you're trying to do too much. You try to do all the things. And so I always encourage people just to pick one thing. Like, are you just going to get better at writing out a couple of meals to eat this week? This is not the same thing as on Monday I'm eating this, on Tuesday I'm eating this, on Wednesday I'm eating this. This is, here's 3 things we're going to make at home at some point this week. And then you'll have a leftovers night, and then you'll have like, I can dig something out of the pantry night, or it's just like fish sticks out of the freezer, right? Fish sticks out of the freezer is better than drive-thru or takeout or going out to dinner. Now, am I opposed to going out to dinner? Am I opposed to the drive-thru? Absolutely not. It just has to be planned, and it has to be part of your budget. If you cannot afford it, don't do it. Or plan very strategically to spend less on your groceries so that you can afford to go either out to dinner or to the drive-thru once a week or whatever your budget allows, right? So I'm not against it. There's certainly days I don't, be that strict where you have to eat at home every single day. That'll wear on you, right? And so you have to give yourself balance and grace in all of it. But at the same time, you have to plan and budget for it money-wise. But it all comes back to that intention of, this is how I'm going to either plan my meals, or I'm just going to get better at checking the sales and writing a good shopping list. I'm not even going to have a meal plan. I'll just throw stuff together when I know I'll have enough. I'll throw it together. Does that make sense? You kind of have to play on your strengths and what you're good at, and then work to improve some of the things that you're not better at. But it's really all about having the intention and picking 1 or 2 areas to focus on. Maybe it's, instead of going out to the drive-thru 3 times this week, we're just going to go 2. And then shave that down to 1, right? And you kind of have to work yourself there. But it's like, we get all these ideas, or we go on Pinterest and we see all these things that we're going to do all these things. None of them ever happen. And then we start beating ourselves up, and then we get guilty, blah, 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 and that doesn't help us. And so if you can just kind of dial in on one thing at a time as it relates to your food budget, so groceries and or dining out, dial in on that and get better at it, and then pick the next thing and get better at that, and pick the next thing and get better at that. And I think that's, little by little, chipping away is where you'll see kind of the longer term results. But you have to be intentional about it. You have to stay diligent about it. Not just this week or this right now when you hear this podcast, but like the next week, the next week, the next week. You just have to keep it top of mind. And then of course give yourself the grace and balance that you need to, depending on what life is throwing at you.
I love it. Keep the main thing the main thing. That's what I always tell people is, what I do every day is I list everything that I would like to do. And it's this long list. Then I look at it, and I stole this from Gary Keller, and it's, what are the 3 things that I can do today that if these are the only 3 things, or maybe it's the only 2 things, whatever it might be, that I can do that I'm going to be happy with. So like this morning, I made my list and I had all these things I wanted to do. And one of them was record podcasts with Erin Chase. And so that's going to be checked off. I have one more thing to do this afternoon. And then, there's a ton of things that I want to do, but I'm probably not going to get to them. But I did the 3 things that I wanted to do today, and I'm going to go to bed happy. And I think sometimes we have 25 things we want to do, and we do 2 of them, and we go to bed and we're like, we're failures. We suck. Mm-hmm. And so keep the main thing the main thing. What is it that you want to do today, or what is it you have to do today? Like for you, Mondays, you're making a 2-hour drive to the therapy center. Yeah. That's going to happen. So that has to be on your list of things to do, and you have to get it done. So Erin, we're wrapping up here. People, when they get done listening here, they're going to head on over to $5dinners.com. What should they be expecting?
So $5dinners.com is going to have information about all the different resources and tools that we have available for you to help with whichever of these areas that you're struggling with, whether it's meal planning or grocery spending or whatnot. If you click over into the blog section, you will find more information about coupons and Amazon deals and recipes, new recipes that we're sharing. There's lots of information there. There's a ton that we have available there for you. So poke around, find what you're looking for that's going to help you with whatever that one thing is that you're working or that you're wanting to work on, and let the site be a resource for you and help you go explore the recipe index as well and look for a couple of new recipes that you could try that are going to be budget friendly. Get the meat when it's on sale. That's my number 1 tip. Get your meat. We didn't even get to grocery tips. Get your meat when it's on sale, and make your meal plan around the meat when it's on sale. And that right there alone, not paying full price for meat, will save a ton on your actual grocery bill.
Yeah, we didn't talk enough about groceries, but I've heard you say that before to me. You said, the biggest thing you could do if you want to make the biggest impact is don't overpay for meat. So work that around. I love that. Okay, so 2 questions I have for you. And you kind of actually stole my question here, but you're going to have to come up with another answer is, besides the meat, what is your number one ultimate tip that you could give somebody that's just ending this podcast right now that they could take action on today when it comes to making over their grocery budget?
Make the sales come to you. So find the sale ads. In my case, they come in my mailbox every Wednesday. So that's easy. But if you don't get the newspaper, you're going to need to go onto your store's website and sign up for their email newsletter, or you need to download their app and turn on the notifications so that you get these reminders throughout your week of, oh, I need to check the sale ads this week for what's on sale so that I can plan to buy the things that are on sale, get the meat that's on sale, make a meal plan around what's on sale. So dialing in on the sales, but having it come to you. Set it up to show up when you need it, and you're going to be more likely to look at it and then take action on, getting the thing that you see on sale at your store each week.
I love it. Perfect. Second question I have, last one I have, then I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. But last one I have here is, what book would you recommend? Any book it could be, but what would you give away the most? What's your favorite book? What would you recommend?
My cookbooks, does that count?
Any book. Yeah.
Well, so I've written 3 cookbooks with all hundreds of budget-friendly recipes and sort of the strategy and the outline of how to spend less on groceries. The very first one, the $5 Dinner Mom cookbook, has all of that laid out. So get it from your library. How about that? Get that from your library. They should have it. And second, that book, The One Thing, is really fantastic. We've been talking about that for the last 10 minutes, so maybe that would be a good one. That's a great book by what's his name?
Gary Keller. So he is Keller Williams Real Estate. So we'll put links to, if you don't want to go to the library, we'll put links to Erin's 3 books, and we'll have links to Gary Keller's The One Thing. I highly recommend that book as well, especially if you're somebody that struggles with trying to do too many things at once and do what's called multitasking, which you'll learn in the book. There's no such thing as multitasking.
It's not good. Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
No, I'm a huge fan of that one for sure.
All right. So it's $5dinners.com. Erin Chase, thank you so much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything Erin and I talked about can be found over at moneypeach.com/session84. That's moneypeach.com/session84. Special thanks goes out to my producer, Steve Stewart, and my assistant, Kayla Sloan. Without them, this show would not be possible. Once again, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, with another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Boom, shakalaka.